Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanna Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanna Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai. So, we are reading today from, okay. All right. Welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're reading from Canto 8, Chapter 19, The Lord Begs Charity from Bali Maharaj. So this is continuing the pastime of Lord Vamanadev. And we'll cover text 22 to 28 today and focus on 24. So 22 up there? Yeah, you want to go ahead and read, Jaishnav?
If I were not satisfied with 3 pieces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of 9 varshas. Even if I possessed one island, I would hope to get others.
Text 23. We have heard that although powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya achieved proprietorship over the 7 dvipas, They could not achieve satisfaction or find the end of their ambitions.
One should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will not be happy even with possessing the three worlds.
Material existence causes discontent in regard to fulfilling one's lusty desires and achieving more and more money. This is a cause for the continuation of material life, which is full of repeated birth and death. But one who is satisfied by that which is obtained by destiny is fit for liberation from this material existence.
A Brahmana who is satisfied with whatever is providentially obtained is increasingly enlightened with spiritual power, but the spiritual potency of this satisfied Brahmana decreases as fire diminishes in potency when water is sprinkled upon it.
Therefore, O king, from you, the best of those who give charity, I ask only 3 paces of land. By such a gift I shall be very pleased, for the way of happiness is to be fully satisfied to receive that which is absolutely needed.
The last one.
Sukadev Goswami continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead had thus spoken to Bali Maharaja, Bali smiled and told him, all right, take whatever you like. To confirm his promise to give Vamana Deva the desired land, he then took up his water pot.
Okay, thank you. So here, I think you all know the story that Vamana Deva is coming to the arena of sacrifice of Bali Maharaj, and he wants to bring out Bali Maharaj's devotional qualities. He wants to induce Bali Maharaj to surrender to Krishna, because he knows that Bali Maharaj, even though he's born in a demoniac family, he's the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, and he has devotional qualities. So Vamana Deva is like, he's thinking, all right, Bali Maharaj, enough of this demoniac lifestyle. I want to see the devotee. I want to bring you to the point of surrender. So he's tricking him here, and we know what's going to happen, but I won't spoil it. But now Vamana Deva is begging. He's coming he's the Lord, but he's appearing as a form of a dwarf Brahmin, and he's coming as a beggar. It's like, please, you're a king, I'm a Brahmin, you have to give charity to the Brahmins. Come here begging alms. And he comes with his little water, his kamandalu, his water pot, and his begging bowl. And Bali Maharaj is like, of course, you've come at such an auspicious time. I'm about to do a sacrifice here. And what would you like? I'll give whatever you need. And then he says, I don't need much. I just need 3 paces of land. So then Bali Maharaj almost becomes offended. He's like, well, I'm such a powerful king. I can give you so many things. I can give you, a whole village or an island, or, I can give you so much more than, and you're so small. You're a dwarf. Your steps are small, 3 steps is nothing. He says, no. I'm satisfied with 3 steps of land. And then, so what he's talking about here is satisfaction. And how, if the mind is uncontrolled, the senses are uncontrolled, then no matter how much we have, we're not satisfied. But if the mind is controlled, then then we can be satisfied with the bare necessities of life. And he's thinking, that's all I need. I don't need more than that. So let's go back to text 24. We'll read the Sanskrit for that. Word here. Yadrichchayo papannena santushto vartate sukham na santushtas tribir lokar ajitatmo pasaditai. So santushta means satisfaction. So we've got santushto, and then we've got na santushtas, so satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Yadvichayopapannena santushto vartate sukham na santushtas tribirlokar ajitatmo pasaditai. Please chat. Yadvichayopapannena santushto vartate sukham na santushtas tribirlokar ajitatmo pasaditai. Yadvichayopapannena santushto vartate sukham na santushtas tribirlokar ajitatmo pasaditai. Yadvichayopapannena santushto vartate sukham na santushtas tribirlokar ajitatmo pasaditai. Right, let's do the word for word. We can do this all together. Yadvichaya, do it together. As offered by the supreme authority according to one's karma. Upapannena, by whatever is obtained. Santushta, one should be satisfied. Vartate, there is. Sukham, happiness. Na, not. Asantushta, one who is dissatisfied. Tribi, lokai, even by possessing the three worlds. Ajita, atma, one who cannot control his senses. Upasaditai, even though obtained. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will not be happy even with possessing the three worlds. Purport. If happiness is the ultimate goal of life, one must be satisfied with the position in which he is placed by providence. This instruction is also given by Prahlad Maharaj. Sukham aindriyakam daitya deha yogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivad yata dukam ayatnata. My dear friends born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.6.3. This philosophy is perfect in regard to obtaining happiness. Real happiness is described in the Bhagavad Gita 6.21. Sukham atyantikam yattat buddhi grayam atindriyam veti yatra nachaivayam stitas chalati tattvataha. In the spiritually joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. One has to perceive happiness by the super senses. The super senses are not the senses of the material elements. Every one of us is a spiritual being, aham brahmasmi, and every one of us is an individual person. Our senses are now covered by material elements, and because of ignorance we consider the material senses that cover us to be our real senses. The real senses, however, are within the material covering. Dehino smin yata dehe. Within the covering of the material elements are the spiritual senses. Sarvopadi vinir muktam tat paratvena nirmalam. When the spiritual senses are uncovered, by these senses we can be happy. Satisfaction of the spiritual senses is thus described. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. When the senses are engaged in devotional service to Rishikesha, then the senses are completely satisfied. Without this superior knowledge of sense gratification, one may try to satisfy his material senses, but happiness will never be possible. One may increase his ambition for sense gratification and even achieve what he desires for the gratification of his senses, but because this is on the material platform, he will never achieve satisfaction and contentment. According to Brahminical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor, and should cultivate spiritual consciousness. Then he will be happy. The purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to spread this understanding. People who do not have scientific spiritual knowledge mistakenly think that the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are escapists trying to avoid material activities. In fact, however, we are engaged in real activities for obtaining the ultimate happiness in life. If one is not trained to satisfy the spiritual senses and continues in material sense gratification, he will never obtain happiness that is eternal and blissful. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.1 therefore recommends, Tapo divyam putrika yena sattvam shudyad yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. One must practice austerity so that his existential position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashta Chade Shatarane. Oh, satisfaction. Satisfaction is a Brahminical quality. And Brahmins, out of all of the different varnas, the Brahmins are mainly influenced by the mode of goodness. So satisfaction comes from goodness. And, in contrast to the lower modes, passion is always pushing us to get more and more and more. Right? Passion fuels lust and greed, basically. So a person in the mode of passion are never satisfied because they think satisfaction comes through material things. And Prabhupada says here that material things can never satisfy the soul. And then the mode of ignorance, person in the mode of ignorance is not trying very hard. They're not exerting themselves immensely like the person in the mode of passion for material sense gratification. So in that sense, they may appear to be satisfied, but actually their situation is not one of satisfaction, but it's just a situation of resignation to dissatisfaction, right? So one thing is, the person in the mode of passion is thinking, okay, I'm not satisfied now, but if I work hard and I get this and I get that, then I can be satisfied. So the person in the mode of passion has some hope, hoping against hope, that by material sense gratification, by material achievements, they'll attain satisfaction. The person in the mode of ignorance is not satisfied, but they've lost hope. They're just in a state of hopelessness and dejection and depression that, oh, everything is bad. What's the use of trying? So, but the person in the mode of goodness is actually satisfied because they have spiritual vision. They can understand that, yes, I'm a spiritual being, that there's a supreme controller, and that the Lord is all merciful, and that everything is happening by the will of Krishna. So it's like what Vamanadeva is saying here, that in the verse that we recited, text 24, he says, Yadrichaya yo papanina. So Yadrichaya means as offered by the supreme authority according to one's karma. So he says that we can be satisfied by accepting that whatever we have, I have because of my previous karma, and it's offered to me by the supreme authority. So there's nothing wrong. Everything is right. I have the right amount. This is what I deserve. This is what I've been allotted by the supreme controller, who is the supreme justice, who knows what's right, who knows what's fair, and everything is happening perfectly. So a person is Brahminical. They just are happy with what has been allotted to them, with their quota. So this is difficult, right? It's difficult to be satisfied because in this material world, The modes of passion and ignorance are so strong, and we're influenced by those modes. And even in the mode of goodness, we have to cultivate satisfaction. It's almost like a sadhana, that we have to actually practice satisfaction. And in Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, when Krishna is talking about austerity in the three modes of nature, he says that in the mode of goodness, the austerities are threefold. There's austerity of body, of speech, and of mind. And for austerities of the mind, the first austerity that he gives is satisfaction. So to be satisfied is actually an austerity for the mind, right? The mind doesn't want to be satisfied. We have to impose satisfaction on the mind. We have to discipline the mind to become satisfied. So this is an austerity, just like waking up in the morning is an austerity, and fasting on special days is an austerity. So being satisfied is a mental austerity. And Prabhupada says that this satisfaction can be achieved only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. So this is what Vamanadev is saying here in text 25. He says, material existence causes discontent in regard to fulfilling one's lusty desires and achieving more and more money. This is the cause for continuation of material life, which is full of repeated birth and death. But one who is satisfied by that which is obtained by destiny is fit for liberation from this material world. So the more we're absorbed in material existence, the more we're just going to be dissatisfied, because Vamanadev is saying material existence causes discontent. So Prabhupada says that satisfaction can be achieved only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. So one way that we can achieve this is, like Vamanadev says in the next verse, that the way of happiness is to be fully satisfied by receiving that which is absolutely needed, right? So just basically accepting the bare necessities of life, right? To keep body and soul together, to stay alive, to maintain our existence. And in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami speaks about this. He says, the bare necessities of life must be accepted, but one should not superfluously increase his necessities, right? Because sometimes we think, we think something is a need when it's actually more of a want, right? We become very attached to our desires to the extent that we feel that we actually need it, that we can't live without that thing. So he says we should be careful about this. Don't unnecessarily increase our necessities, right? Don't be illusioned into accepting unnecessary necessities, or thinking unnecessary things are necessary. And then interestingly, he also says, nor should a devotee be nor should those our needs be unnecessarily decreased. So we shouldn't unnecessarily increase them, but we also shouldn't unnecessarily increase them, but we also shouldn't unnecessarily decrease them. In other words, we shouldn't go in and say, go home after class today and be like, all right, I need to accept only the bare necessities of life. So we go through our house and like, all right, I can probably live without this, I can live without that, and start just throwing everything away and bringing it down to just, whatever, 1 pint of milk in the fridge and a little bag of rice in the cupboard and, bare floor, bare walls. So Rupa Goswami is saying, no, that's not helpful either. Don't even bother about it. Don't try to increase them. Don't try to decrease them. Just accept what has been allotted, right? Like, Swayambhuva Manu also says that to Kardama Muni when he's coming with Devahuti to offer her to him as his wife. He says you should accept what gain comes easily by its own accord. So in life we experience that things come to us, right? People will give us things, or with a little bit of effort we'll just get, all the things that we need. And some people will get more and some people will get less because everybody has a different quota, right? That's Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bunjita Kasvid Ma, what is it? Ma Gridhak Kasya Swid Dhanam. Yeah. That everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is owned and controlled by the Lord, and one should just accept one's quota, what's been set aside as our quota and not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So basically, everything in this world belongs to the Lord, and He allots us what we need in this life, according to our karma, according to what's good for us, and especially after surrendering to Krishna, He'll allot to us what's favorable for our spiritual advancement. And He'll also take away from us what's unfavorable, right? He'll make those arrangements in our lives. So the idea is that we don't need to worry too much about these things. Just have faith that Krishna knows what He's doing. He's giving everybody the right amount, and He's also giving me the right amount. So whatever it is, I just accept that. So that's one way of being satisfied. And another way of being satisfied, which Prabhupada speaks about in that verse from Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, text 16, where he talks about satisfaction being an austerity of the mind. He says that the best course is to divert the mind to Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories. So even if we might think that there is something lacking in our life, but if we just, don't worry about it too much, if we instead divert our mind to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, reading, Chaitanya Charitamrita or Mahabharata or Ramayana, then these stories are so satisfying that they make us feel satisfied, right? We had a Krishna House meeting the other day, and we did a little exercise where we all wrote down our 2 personal goals for the next 3 months. And one of the goals that came to my mind was that I do a lot of reading, like preparing for all the classes that I give, but I also have my personal reading that I just do for myself that I sometimes neglect because I'm doing, all the preparations and other services. So I want to be more like steady and regulated daily, doing my personal reading daily. And so we not only came up with the personal goals, but we also spent some time like kind of journaling, like why is that important to me? Why is that a goal that I want to achieve? And my experience is that, sometimes I start thinking that there's things wrong with my life and I become dissatisfied. Something's lacking. Oh, I wish this could be like this. Oh, if only this would happen, then, I could be happy. And so I start feeling a sense of like, emptiness. Like, my life is not what it should be. And then whenever I just pick up the book, that I'm reading, and just start reading and just get really absorbed into it very, conscientiously, very prayerfully, then all those feelings of dissatisfaction go away. And I just feel like, you know what? Everything is perfect and complete. Everything is just fine, exactly the way it is. I don't need anything. Nothing needs to change. It's all good. And so that's why reading or hearing, when we read, even when we do our own silent reading, it's also in the category of Shravanam. It's hearing. So Shravanam is so important. It's it is the first of the 9 processes of devotional service. And all the other 8 processes of devotional service come from hearing. And there's a really nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that talks about the effects of hearing Krishna Katha, how it satisfies us. So it's from Canto 4, Chapter 30, Text 35. It goes like this. Yatredyante katha mrishtas trishnaya prashamo yataha nirvairam yatra bhuteshu nodvego yatra kaschana. So that means that wherever pure topics of Krishna Katha are discussed, the audience forgets all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they're also free from envy, anxiety, and fear. So at least while we're sitting in the Srimad Bhagavatam class, and maybe sometimes you experience that, especially if you're in a really good class, very empowered speaker, then you may have woken up in the morning thinking, oh, I'm stressed out about this, or I'm really lacking this in my life, feeling dissatisfied. And then you sit down in class and start discussing Bhagavatam, hearing attentively, and those hankerings go away, those anxieties and fears go away, and you leave class thinking, oh, all is good, everything is well with the world, like that. So I've experienced that many times. So Srimad Bhagavatam not only teaches us about satisfaction, as Vamanadev here in this section is literally teaching us about satisfaction, but it also makes us satisfied. It also gives us a sense of satisfaction. And not only that, but it also purifies the heart. It frees us from those influences of passion and ignorance which create dissatisfaction, and it elevates us to the platform of goodness, right? Stitam sattvam prasidati. It situates us there in the mode of goodness, pure goodness, which is the source of satisfaction, which enables us to be satisfied. So we need to keep on hearing. That's the solution. That's the ultimate solution. And it's the beginning of all of those things. Ultimately, it not only awakens the mode of goodness or awakens satisfaction, but it awakens our love for Krishna, which not only satisfies, not only fills the cup of our hearts, but causes it to overflow and expand to others. So, yeah, Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema, Sadhikabunai, Shravanadi, Shuddha Chitta, Karaye Udai. So this love for Krishna is eternally situated within the hearts of all living beings, and it awakens by Shravan Adi, Shravana by hearing and chanting, and all the 9 processes of devotional service, but beginning from hearing. And of course, Srila Prabhupada is talking about something else here in this purport, which is not only does hearing about Krishna awaken our love for Krishna and bring us to transcendental satisfaction, but it also awakens our spiritual identity. And I thought it was interesting in this purport how Srila Prabhupada stresses a lot about this concept of super senses, right? Everybody wants to be a superman, a superwoman. So Srila Prabhupada is alluding to the fact that yes, that's who we are. That's why everybody actually is a super person, because we have these super senses. So yeah, now we're operating with our material senses for the most part, right? We have a material mind, but we also have a spiritual mind. And as we perform devotional service, then the material mind becomes purified. It doesn't just become purified, but it becomes dissolved. Material mind becomes dissolved, and the spiritual mind, which is the subtle body of our spiritual form, arises. And then the mind becomes the friend. The mind becomes our best friend because it guides us towards spiritual activities. And then we engage in those spiritual activities. Our material senses also become spiritual senses, which Srila Prabhupada is talking. And our material body ceases to be a material body, but it becomes a spiritual body, or at least it becomes a spiritualized body. And by using that material body, our temporary material but spiritualized bodies in Krishna's service, then that brings us realization of our actual spiritual form. So this is the transformative power of bhakti. And Krishna talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita also. In 4:24, he says, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. So Brahma is repeated here, it means spirit. So he's talking about as soon as we engage in the spiritual activity of devotional service, everything becomes spiritualized. So for example, if you're going out on book distribution. So book distribution is a spiritual activity. The books are spiritual, the effort that goes into it is spiritual service. The books are spiritual, the words that you say to the person, that's spiritual sound vibration. Your Sankirtan mantra, we call it a mantra, that you say to people. And the person who's doing it is also spiritual. The material body that you're using becomes an instrument in that service and also becomes spiritual. So everything becomes spiritual, and by doing those spiritual activities, it takes us to the spiritual world. That's what Krishna is saying in this verse from Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. So yeah, so that's what happens is all the material aspects of our lives just melt away. And Prabhupada quotes the verse here in the purport, Sarvopadi vinir muktam tat paratvena nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchite. So all of our upadis, sarvopadi vinirmuktam, means sarva upadis. All of our upadis, vinirmuktam, we become free from them. So these upadis are material designations, all the things that we in our material life think we are, right? Like I think I'm this body, I think I'm a man or a woman, I think I'm old or young, I think I'm American or Indian or European or whatever. You know, the things that I think I am, or I think I'm an engineer or a doctor or a dentist or whatever. You know, I think I'm something, but I'm not any of these things. I think that I'm a mother or a child or a father or a grandfather. I'm actually none of these things. These are all material designations. And so as we perform devotional service, we become free from the material designations, and we become situated in our actual designation as Jivera Swarupahoy, Krishnara Nityadas. That's all I am. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. Actually, another meaning of upadi in the Sanskrit dictionary is substitution. I thought this was really interesting. So as long as we don't know our real identity as the eternal servant of Krishna, then what we do is we substitute a false identity, because we need an identity, right? We have to be someone because we're eternally individuals. So we have a need to be someone, to have a sense of identity. And so because we've forgotten our real identity as eternal servants of Krishna, then we substitute this identity that, okay, I'm a, middle-aged white American woman, teacher, or whatever I am. I substitute that because I don't know who I am. So the amazing thing about bhakti is that it also awakens this our eternal spiritual identity. It helps us to remember who we really are, that we all have this eternal spiritual form, and it's gradually revealed. Rupa Goswami talks about this. There's a nice verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that says, Seva sadhaka rupena, siddha rupena chatrahi, tat bhava lipsuna karya, vraja lokanusarataha. Saying another translation here. It says, an advanced devotee who is who is inclined to spontaneous loving service has these two rupas. So this is a very advanced state of Krishna consciousness, where the advanced devotee becomes aware of two rupas, or two forms. So the first form is Seva Sadhaka Rupena. So the Seva Sadhaka Rupa is our external form, our body, which the perspective that the advanced devotee has is that this is the form with which I do my seva, with which I serve Krishna in this world, and with which I do my sadhana, right? This is the body, this is the tongue, the voice that I use for chanting. These are the eyes that I use for coming and taking darshan. These are the ears that I use for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the arms and legs that I use for doing whatever service that I do in my current position here. And in addition to that, there's another form, which is called the Siddha Rupa, which is the perfected spiritual form, in which, or with which, the pure devotee serves the Lord internally, within the purified heart and mind. So this is, at an advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, then devotee becomes aware of their real identity, and internally, this is something private that they don't express generally to others, although our acharyas have actually been kind of quite open about it. If you read some of the songs and writings of our previous acharyas, they actually speak quite openly about their siddha rupas and the ways in which they meditate on serving the Lord in that siddha rupa. Of course, they do that to instruct us, to teach us that this is the goal. This is what we're trying to awaken, and that we should aspire to have these realizations and be engaged in these ways. Not that we try to, force it or concoct it, imagine it prematurely, but there will come a stage where our eternal identities will be revealed to us, and in those spiritual forms, those siddha rupas, then we can serve the Lord in our meditations. So we have songs, for example, like Narottam Das Thakur's song, Radha Krishna Pranamor Yugala Kishore, where he says, I will anoint the dark and fair forms of the divine couple with sandalwood. I will fan them with the chamara. I will string a garland of malati flowers, and with the permission of Lalita and Vishaka Sakis, I will go forward and place it on their necks. So internally, he's meditating. And it's not just imagination, but he's actually there, by the strength of his bhakti, by the mercy of the Lord and his representatives. He's able actually to, in his internal meditations, to enter into the Leela and to perform those services in his Siddha Rupa. So that's actually going on. He's not just imagining it, or he's not just hoping that he'll be a pujari one day. He's actually there. He's actually doing it. So there's the external form with which we serve in this world, and acharyas like Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Rupa Goswami, the 6 Goswamis, they're all doing this. They're serving externally. So Rupa Goswami, he was doing so much external service, right? He was writing books, studying the Shastras, he was giving classes, he was worshipping the deity, he was overseeing the construction of Radha Govinda temple in Vrindavan. He was helping to rediscover, identify the holy places. He was doing so much external service. And at the same time, he had his internal service that he also reveals, as Rupa Manjari in Radha Krishna Leela. So these two forms, the Seva Sadhaka Rupa and the Siddha Rupa. And these two forms are both distinct from how we generally see our bodies as vehicles for sense gratification. So there's no sense gratification Rupa. That form doesn't exist. That's a false concept, right? There's no that this body is for, that I have these senses and they want to enjoy the sense objects and that's part of what I need to do. In the mind of an advanced devotee, that concept is just totally gone. And that's actually the qualification for realizing these higher levels, is that I don't see my body as a vehicle for sense gratification. I just see it as an instrument for two things, sadhana and seva. And that's my external. And then internally, I'm also doing my internal service. So just imagine how blissful it is to exist, on this stage of realization, where we're just serving Krishna externally, and we're totally absorbed also simultaneously in serving Krishna internally. And that's the happiness that Srila Prabhupada is talking about when he's quoting this verse in the purport. It says, in that spiritually joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, unlimited, right? Sukham atyantikam means happiness that has no end. Unlimited happiness, which is experienced, which is enjoyed through transcendental senses, atindriyam. So this is not these senses, these eyes and ears and nose and mouth and hands and whatever, but transcendental senses, the spiritual senses of the spiritual body are actually experiencing boundless transcendental happiness. And it's so enlivening to the soul that that this sequence of verses continues. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. So that's the level of satisfaction, is that so satisfied. I don't need anything else. I have this, and there's nothing else to be desired. And he says, being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even amidst the greatest difficulties. In other words, this external situation may not be perfect. It may be extremely difficult, but still the person who's on this level of consciousness is experiencing that everything is wonderful. I can't imagine a better life, right? And we have an example also of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. When he was at the end of his life, his whole body was racked with cancer. You can imagine he was experiencing like a lot of pain. He was very weak. He was skin and bones, lying there on the bed just days before his departure from this world. And, His Holiness Radhanath Swami was there. Others were there comforting him, holding his hand and chanting for him. And he just, at one point he just looked in the eyes of one of his beloved godbrothers and he said, "It doesn't get any better than this." Can you imagine? It doesn't get any better than this. Because he's at this stage, internally, he's relishing, this, he's experiencing boundless transcendental happiness through transcendental senses. And he's thinking that even amidst the greatest difficulties, that it doesn't get any better than this. And Krishna continues, this is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So in this way, bhakti, when our devotional service is at that mature stage where it's pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted, then that's the source of true permanent satisfaction, right? As it says in Bhagavatam, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaitukya pratiyata yayatma suprasidhati. It completely satisfies the self. But to get to that, right, to uncover our super senses, our spiritual senses and our spiritual body, to awaken our superpowers as super amazing spirit souls in Krishna's service, then we have to stop misusing our present external bodies for sense gratification. We have to start seeing it and using it as a seva sadhaka rupa, right? We may not have realized our siddha rupa, but we can still use this seva sadhaka rupa properly, and that will lead us to these higher levels of self-discovery and complete satisfaction and bliss. Okay, so I'll end there. Open it up for any questions or comments. Yes, Mother Kunti. It's on. There it goes.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Prabhupada Priya. The message of the shloka, self-satisfaction through Krishna consciousness. It's true. It's really true. Srila Prabhupada had a servant in England, and one day the servant came in, and Srila Prabhupada looked at him and said, "You may go wherever you please. That's all right now. You may go. But you may go now." In other words, he was dismissing him from the service. And the servant was, of course, taken aback. And he said, "Because you're never happy when I see you. You're frowning, you're upset, you're not happy. Servants should be joyful, should be happy." And of course, I don't know what happened. Maybe the servant put on a big grin. "Please let me stay."
I'll smile.
But so you're absolutely correct. People ask, "Well, why do we don't have people coming? We don't help people join." Are you happy? Do you convey that happiness when people come around the temple? It's like when we have that happiness, it's contagious. People want to be here. Wait a minute, they've got something. What is it? Right? Like that pastime of the touchstone? Hold it. He was keeping it in his garbage heap. Why was he keeping it in a garbage heap? Yeah. So he came back and said, I need to know what is more valuable. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anybody else?
So, we're so fortunate that we have this gift, of the science of happiness, the science of self-satisfaction, Krishna consciousness. Kartikeya?
So you were talking about reading. Your reading and reading is like Shravanam. And it is explaining Krishna consciousness that we should read submissively. When we read, we should read submissively. And sometimes, I'm reading something, whatever, any of the books. And, it says, for example, it will say that Krishna is always happy, right? But then, another book is talking about how much Krishna suffers when he's separated from the Vrijavasis, right? Yeah. So, my mind goes, Krishna, I'm reading Krishna is always happy, and then this thought comes, but he's not happy at that time. So I feel like I'm not reading submissively because I'm questioning what I'm reading, So what do you suggest for a crazy mind like mine? What will be a remedy to that, or what should be my mood when I'm reading? Is that lack of faith? Is lack of understanding of the philosophy? How can I better myself in that regard?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so reading or hearing submissively doesn't mean that we don't question things, right? In fact, the Shastras are practically designed to make us question, right? And we see that, as Krishna is narrating the Bhagavad Gita, what is Arjuna doing? He's stopping and asking questions. Wait a minute, Krishna. You just said that you spoke this science to the sun god, but the sun god is so much older than you. How is that possible? And because he asked that question, it gave Krishna a chance to talk about the transcendental nature of his appearance in this world and his activities. And also throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, it starts with questions. There's questions throughout. Maharaj Parikshit's constantly asking questions, and as a result of the questions, things are becoming clear. And Krishna's revealing, and Shukadeva Goswami is revealing more and more. He's going deeper and deeper into the pastimes, into the philosophy. So, actually, there are some verses from scripture which are intentionally unclear. Right? For example, in Shishu Upanishad, the Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away and he's very near. Right? What is that? So, okay, we could just read submissive and be like, okay, the Lord's amazing, he can do everything, whatever. But, but an inquisitive mind, right? It's good, we should be inquisitive, right? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa means inquisitive. It means we should inquire. So when we come across things, what does it mean? How does he walk and also not walk? We should ask that question. So these some of these verses are designed, or even concepts are there to induce us to approach a bona fide spiritual master and ask questions, and that will draw us deeper and deeper into understanding of the absolute truth. Right? So it's true that Krishna is always happy, and also sometimes he's apparently not happy, right? But even his apparent unhappiness is just another flavor of ecstasy. So Krishna's ecstasies come in many flavors. When you read Nectar Devotion and it talks about there's 33 vyabhichari bhavas, or emotions that a devotee may experience in ecstatic love of God, and some of them seem very painful. Some of them seem like emotions that you actually would rather not experience, but they're all ecstatic emotions. They're emotions that arise out of ecstatic love. Ecstatic means what? Extreme happiness. In a state of extreme happiness, in a state of devotional ecstasy, where you're overwhelmed with love, which is like, the epitome of happy emotions. You may feel devastated, you may feel forlorn, you may feel, whatever. So it's hard to understand, because in our concept, happiness is good and sadness is bad, right? We live in a world of duality. But in Krishna consciousness, there's no duality. Everything is just happiness, but it comes in different flavors. So yeah.
Hey, well, thank you. I just felt like I was committing offenses reading with that mentality, and I didn't want to be more of, I didn't want to do that.
No, you were doing it right. We're supposed to think like that. If you're thinking like that, then it's working. But just don't just stay with the doubt. Talk to someone about it. Go to a devotee that you think can clear it up for you.
Krishna. So, so we've been reading Shivaram's book, Krishna Sangati, every evening. So, Krishna is separated from Vrindavan for like 44 years. Then he returns. But during that time, they are devastated, right? They are, it's like people don't want to go to Vrindavan because they feel it's ghostly haunted. It's a very, the cows won't give milk to their calves. All the Brajavasis are in shambles, living basically, the trees, don't give blossoms. So how do we understand this?
Yeah. So this is, it's a manifestation of, that ecstasy of separation from Krishna. That, it's just like when Krishna plays his flute, there's an ecstasy that comes from that, which also causes everything to kind of go awry, right? The rivers stop flowing, the birds stop flying and fall out of the sky, the stones start melting. So it's also a kind of devastation, right? Where everything seems to just go wrong. Everything does the opposite of what it should do. So the ecstasy of separation is the same. It causes, the trees to stop bearing fruit, the cows to stop giving milk. And but actually Vrindavan, that's just an external manifestation, right? There's also, Vrindavan is always existing in its full glory and its full beauty, but sometimes that's manifest and sometimes that's unmanifest. And that's also protecting the sanctity, like the intimacy of the Brajavasis. Because if anybody would go to Vrindavan during that time, they would misunderstand, right? And they would just cause a disturbance. They'd be like, what's wrong with you people? You need to get out of here. Can't you see this is becoming a wasteland? This is like a desert. You're going to die. So it's kind of like, the Yogamaya covering, that it appears to be like that to keep away people who might disturb the Brajavasis' ecstasy, right? Because if somebody is just totally stunned and unconscious and tear-struck because of loving separation from a dear one, you don't want some stranger coming in and being like, oh, what's wrong? It's like something they actually want to experience that with others who experience it.
Okay, in this pastime, Krishna says to the gopis that I'm always with you in my apricot form. I never leave Vrindavan.
Yeah.
So is that the understanding, that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan because he's in his apricot form?
Exactly, yeah. That's correct understanding. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, what happens is, see, this is all related to Krishna's birth, Jamashtami, is that when Vasudeva brings Krishna from Dwarka, then he leaves his son Krishna there. Mother Yashoda also gives birth to Krishna at the same time that Devaki gives birth to Krishna. So Mother Yashoda actually gives birth to two children. She has twins. There's Krishna and there's Yogamaya, a boy child and a girl child. So when Vasudeva brings his son Krishna over across the Yamuna, leaves there by Mother Yashoda, he's just very ekiha. He's very focused about what he's doing. He was told there's a girl child, get the girl child, leave Krishna, and bring the girl back to Mathura. He doesn't even notice that there's a boy child there on the other side, or maybe under the blanket or something like that. He just sees the girl, leaves Krishna, takes the girl and goes back. So then what happens is that the Vasudeva's Krishna at that time merges with Yashoda's Krishna. And Devaki's Krishna merges with Yashoda's Krishna, and who's Nanda, because the Yashoda's Krishna is actually the complete, original, most ecstatic, exquisite form of Krishna that contains all other incarnations, all other expansions. And then Devaki and Vasudeva's Krishna is Vasudeva Krishna. He's an expansion of Krishna. So that expansion of Krishna basically merges back into the original form of Krishna, who is born of Mother Yashoda. And then you've got one Krishna, okay? So then when Akrura comes with his chariot, the dreaded chariot, and Krishna and Balaram get on that chariot. Then as soon as they reach the border of Vraj Mandal, then Vasudeva Krishna expands from Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, and he only goes to Mathura, Dwarka, and does those pastimes. And Yashodanandan as Krishna goes into Uppercut Leela. And then what happens is when Krishna goes into Uppercut Leela, the whole Vrindavan Dham goes into Uppercut Leela. And
So-
actually all the gopis and gopas, all the Brajbasis, they also have a separate existence in the Uppercut Leela and a simultaneous existence in the Prakat Leela. So there's two dimensions now to Braj Leela, and they're going on simultaneously.
My question is, why did Prabhupada not mention anything? Like in Krishna book, he refers always to Krishna as the son of Devaki.
Mm.
Always.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think
And
Prabhupada-
even in many of the purports.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he is. I mean, he is. It's not wrong. He is. He's both. But I think Prabhupada kept it simple. Yeah, we learned these other details, as I've just explained, we learned mainly from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, his commentaries that you can find in Sarata Darshini. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your follow-up there to me reminds me, like Lord Jesus said, I have much to tell you, but you're not ready to hear it. So,
Yeah.
so maybe it was it's being revealed later on.
Yeah.
So
And I think Srila Prabhupada knew that. I think Srila Prabhupada knew that more would be revealed as the movement went and, books were translated. And he told disciples, he said, you should read the books of the Goswamis. You should read. He specifically mentioned some books like Brihat Bhagavatamrita that everyone should read, Krishna Bhavanamrita, everyone should read, like that. He specifically mentioned these books, which he hadn't translated, which indicates that, there was work to be done and that these things would be known in the future. But his disciples were all so new at the time. Nobody was really ready for it. Now we have devotees who've been practicing for 30, 40, 50 plus years. And it's like, and now these things are becoming available, right? When the person is ready, then these things manifest. Yeah.
Boma Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. Is there really a difference, or are they the same?
In one sense, there's no difference, but in another sense, it's kind of achintya beda, abeda tattva, because just in the sense that in Boma Vrindavan, there are some pastimes that happen in ways that they don't happen in Goloka Vrindavan. For example, killing the demons. When Krishna is here, he actually kills demons. In the spiritual world, there are only rumors of demons, right? And even the Parakiya Rasa is more accentuated in Boma Lila than it is in Goloka. So in one sense, the Boma Lila is more exciting. It's more dramatic. Yeah. Or they may be excited. Who knows what they're thinking? They may be excited. Krishna, when are you going to... Can I come to the Boma Lila this time? I mean, they always come, but yeah. It's fun down there. All right, so Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo, Hare Krishna.